the most produced beer style in the world. And then next is hazy IPA, so I have my work cut out for me.
Jeez, I knew somehow he was going to work hazy IPA into this thing, and then bitch about it. Coming to you sort of live from the Greenville Beer Exchange, or GBX as we call it, on Lawrence Street in wonderful downtown Greenville, South Carolina. I'm Russ Heaps, and welcome to this episode of Big John in 5. That's where I get my good buddy over here on the other side of the dais, Big John Richards, to pick a beer from one of GBX's 23 taps, or I don't know, hundreds of cans and bottles. We sniff it, we sip it, we kibitz about it. John tells us usually a little bit about the brewery. Sometimes he shares a little bit about brewing history. And joining us today, next to me, is my fraternity brother of 50 plus years, E. Randall Porter of the Dayton, Ohio Porters.
Close enough.
So, after that illustrious introduction, John, what are we doing here?
We're doing a fun little beer called Bavik Super Pilsner. This is an unfiltered version of this beer, which I had not ever seen before until yesterday. And so it's a classic. It's a Belgian-style Pilsner, which really doesn't exist. But they use, if I understand things correctly, some of this comes through the rumor mill. Use a little bit of wheat in this, and then a Belgian yeast strain instead of a European or an American yeast strain or some other cleaner yeast strain. The Belgian yeast strain give it a little bit of funkiness.
Yeah.
And then, of course, adding a little bit of wheat gives it a little bit of a creamy texture. They also do a beer called Super Wit. That's a wit beer that's, of course, going to use some wheat in there. And so these three now, because it was always just the two, are somewhat similar beers, although the wit definitely tends more into the funky direction. This one tends to be cleaner. This is one of those just great, perfect, clean sipping beers. This is the beer that took over the world. And you think about Pilsner took over the world in the middle 1800s because of a couple of reasons. Glass. And glass had really just in the middle 1800s become available to anyone that wasn't royalty. And so nobody had ever really been able to see their beer before. You put it in a stone mug or a steel or a metal mug, or I don't think they had steel then, but
sometimes they dug out like tree bark and stuff.
Yeah, and sip out of that. Absolutely. You have the bugs. It gives it a little extra flavor there.
A little extra.
So
protein. Beer
had never been this color. Beer had never been able to be this light. Beer had never been this clear and filtered and clean. Now this one is unfiltered. And glass let you hold that beer up to the light and look through it, and it just sparkled in the sun, and it was clean and fresh and bright and refreshing, and nobody had ever had anything like it before, and it took over the world. And it has still taken over the world, because Pilsner, counting American lagers, are by far the most produced beer style in the world. And then next is hazy IPA, so I have my work cut out for me.
Jeez, I knew somehow he was going to work hazy IPA into this thing, and then bitch about it. Jeez,
I can't let it go too long.
I know. We've gone through. This is what our third
episode. I haven't said a hazy yet,
and that's the first time he's mentioned hazy. First time.
Won't be the last.
So
we should dig right into this. It's going to be pretty classic Pilsner. It's going to be bright, just kind of a floral, herbal kind of aroma on that. Brisk on the finish, a little earthy because of the Belgian yeast strain, like I said, just a touch of that barnyardy flavor that we talk about, but it is real light, and it's just such a refreshing, good, clean beer.
I'm a little ahead on this because John poured one of these for me earlier today when I was having a breakdown, an emotional breakdown, because I can't get
You may
I
not
don't-
be able
I-
to see us over
Yeah,
here.
we may just be a blur
Gallery.
out of camera 2 over here because I couldn't get it to focus.
And Russ is a professional.
And I am. I'm a gifted amateur. Well, that's a drinking, I guess. I don't know what I am in video speak. But anyway, text Miss Lily.
Professional.
But I really liked this, so I told John that we had to do a segment
Yeah.
on it once we started.
Very clean and crisp.
It's super crisp. And it's so bright on the finish. It's not like citrusy acidic or acidic at all. It's a little bit spicy, a little bit earthy, and it's just so bright.
Great beer to drink on a sunny day when it's 90 degrees and you just mowed the grass.
Yeah.
You spend an hour mowing your lawn and you're thirsty and you say, wow, this week. Great
So
thirst quencher right
The
here.
guys next door, Trapdoor, who are friends of the podcast, friends of the show,
Indeed.
they keep this beer on all the time over there. So more often than not, the crew that gets off work over here, pops over next door because they're still open. We'll have a nightcap with those guys and walk in the door and it's like, Bobby, you want a Bobby? I'd have a Bobby. I'll have a Bobby. Because Bavik is way too hard to say.
Orange whip, orange whip, orange whip.
So that's our shift beer. Similar concept. Get done at the end of the night. You just want something clean and light, something crisp that'll get you right.
Yeah.
And this is that beer.
Yep.
So I got one quick question.
Go.
In like 2 sentences or less, what's the difference between a Pilsner and a lager? I know they're both similar, but there's
It's-
obviously a difference.
Pilsner is to lager what bourbon is to whiskey. It is a kind of lager.
Okay.
So it's a very specific kind of lager, and it has there not written rules about how it's to be produced the same way that bourbon does, but it does have style guidelines, that come from like Brewers Association and some of those guys. So Pilsner in lager, Pilsner is this very light, clean, bright, brisk, and dry beer. Often it's been associated with noble hops, which are there's 4 noble hops varieties that famously are the hops that go into Pilsner. But if you go to Germany or Prague, Czech Republic, or a place where Pilsner was invented, nobody uses the noble hops anymore. They're using some special hybrid that's being grown locally and using their own hop. And so
Philistines. They're Philistines.
Right, yeah. They're scientists, or I don't know, something. Maybe they're Philistines.
They're bunglers.
They're making great beer, though. That's for sure.
Bungling their way into great beer. Is
Right.
What they're doing.
But lager encompasses so much more than just this. You can have amber lager. You can have like dark lager that's dark brown color. You can have Schwartz beer that's black lager.
Okay.
You can have Bock beer that's higher as you get higher strength into Bock and Doppelbock, and then Ice Bock, and there are and probably a dozen more lager styles that I could if I decided to go down the road. The lager does not mean light beer.
No, I
Lager just means
it's aged at the bottom.
yes.
It's cold aged.
cold fermented and cold aged.
Lager
You
in
have to-
German
right.
means low, right?
Lager means to store.
Oh, to store?
Lager is the verb that means to store.
Okay.
And it is called, the whole process, you brew the thing, ferment it, and then you lager it. So you have to let it sit in the cellar and mature for often months before you can bottle it and send it out, because there's some fermentation flavors that live in these beers that have to age out before they become pleasant to drink.
How do you say lager in German? Lager von den Bergen. Something like that. There's an umlaut in it somewhere.
Right.
That's all I know.
Lager is the German word.
Oh, is it?
Yes. Yeah. You're speaking German when you say lager.
Wow. Now I can speak as much German as I did Russian. I took Russian for a whole year on my first year in college.
Nice. All right, boys. Send them on the road.
So damn lucky. See you next time.